So impressed, and I want to tell you, I learned so much from you, and I do want to talk to you later. I concentrated just on the Reconstruction period. I didn't go all the way back beautifully the way you did. I originally chose Elvin's Road to be a block study, and it sort of just bloomed from there, and Habeebah was tremendously helpful to me. And I traced the original lot owners, purchasers. They were 1 acre lots, divided up by General Howard, and then I traced the families from that time on. And it's amazing. I mean, those people stayed around for years. And today, and I won't even try to do that because I've got a PowerPoint. It would have been too much. Would have been too long for today anyway. But I do have one that talks about that, and I can come back some other time for that. But what I wanted to say is that that sort of got me started on Elvin's Road, and today I am now back on Elvin's Road studying the People's Co-op. You hear that? It's on Elvin's Road. A woman named Barbara Valentine was living in it. I should have given you a lot of background, but there was a period from 1967 on in which developers came in. They were encouraged, they were given guaranteed loans because Southwest was being redeveloped, and they were all squeezed out. And there were all the alley people in Georgetown, and they had no place to live. So the government, in its wisdom, gave these guaranteed loans to these developers. Well, they were crooks. The worst one being a partnership named Savage for Programming. No relation, thank God. But they would go in, and most of their buildings were on Elvin's, although they were all around Potomac and I mean on what's the next street over?
Roy, Stanton Road.
That starts with B. Pomeroy. Pomeroy. When you get to be my age, you know. And they had those, all those on the other side of the hill were all theirs. So anyway, what they would do is they take these loans, they give the money, and they immediately scrape off money off the top, and just, that was their money. And then they take the remaining money and build apartments, usually very cheaply. Yeah. And what was worse, they did not provide any security or any maintenance. So naturally, the buildings went downhill very quickly, and they would just default on the loan because they couldn't lose any money, right? It was guaranteed by the government. Well, there was a pattern to this. This happened over and over. It happened in Stanton Oaks. It happened down the bottom of the hill at what they call Wellington. I think it's called something else now. Yeah, yeah. It happened in it happened on Jeffrey Terrace. And it was just a cycle. I mean, it would go in, and then someone else would buy the property, dirt cheap, it used to say. Maybe they'd fix it up a little bit, but let it run down again, and of course, default. They didn't lose any money. Well, this happened to poor Barbara Valentine and her neighbors enough time that finally, about that time, the city government passed a law that said that if you are selling a building, the tenants get right of first refusal. So, and this was during the Jack Kemp era, the tenant empowerment period. So she was smart enough to get her, and she would, by the way, was a supervisory clerk over at St. Louis. She got her neighbors together, and they exercised that right of first refusal, and they bought their building. And it was wonderful. The city helped them. They had it was an outfit called Muscle. It's Ministries United, and I'm not sure how the rest of it is, but with a group of ministers, they helped her do this. They pulled it off. Legal stuff like that, with a legal firm to help them, did pro bono work. In any case, they did it. They now own their own property. But more importantly, they were in charge of the maintenance, the security, and they could screen the candidates. Because a lot of people are being let in, and even those that were let in, they weren't trained on how to live there. When I say that, they didn't know the basics about living there. In terms that they screened the children. There were some really wild brats out there, as you can imagine. And once you let one of them in, you got a crew, right? So that was their big thing. And they were all, a lot of times those cooperative, it's called an LEC, Limited Equity Corporation, cooperative. And a lot of them would rent some of the apartments out, but she didn't. All of her people were owners. And you had to have a certain amount of money to buy it. I think it was $12,000, no, or $1,200. It wasn't that much, but it was a sizable amount, and especially at that time in 1982. She started in '78, and then they would screen you. You couldn't, not just anybody could buy in, and so well, one of the first things they had to do was they had a few people who were able to buy in, but then wouldn't make their monthly payments or anything. She had to evict them, and she said, "I feel terrible. I'm trying to help people find a place to live, but I got to evict a few of them." It was a cute story in the Washington Post about that. Well, anyway, poor Barbara, she carried that co-op all the while working over here at St. Elizabeth's. She didn't drive. She had to ride a bus to work. Her neighbors speak very, very highly of her. I think she's almost a hero over there. Well, I'm going to write this little article about her for the DC, for the Historical Society. And I think she needs to be recorded as a hero. Well, anyway, the co-op is doing okay. They, one of their units, they have security people in. In fact, it's a training school. Part of the problem is that the 5 buildings of Jeffrey Terrace are arranged in a circle. And there was a pool in the middle. And during all these cycles, the pool, they didn't maintain it. The algae was in there, and after a while, people threw trash in there, and someone said they even found a bicycle in there. But I guess the overall picture of this thing is every time Washington, D.C. has a problem, they push it across the river. Look at Blue Plains, for God's sake. Look at the bonus march you just mentioned. Look at, think of all the problems they push over here. I've got that's part of my presentation. But it's really not fair, and of course the reason they can get away with it is that people over here don't have the political muscle people over here do. So that's the first thing. And that's why you guys may have seen me at various grocery stores here this past year. I've been registering people to vote. I think that's the most important thing, is to get that vote. Well, I really can't top you, so I'm going to sit down.
Thank you.
I got a question, a little bit more to elaborate about Elvin's Road. Some of the findings that you found out about Elvin's Road.
Okay, well, it was really a solid black middle-class street. People had very good jobs. Solomon G. Brown was not only an entomologist, but he was very, the term clerk today doesn't mean too much, but in those days, clerk was very prestigious job. He was a clerk with Smithsonian. Smithsonian can tell you all about him. They're very proud of him. He was also a musician and a poet and a few other things like that. And he was on that first territorial government that you mentioned earlier. That was 1871, I think. 4 years it was in existence. He was a good friend of
He was friends with Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, Frederick Douglass. He was a good friend of Frederick Douglass. And I think I told you before that Frederick Douglass Patterson was named, his parents were good friends. And they named him after Frederick Douglass.
Now, I know we don't know for sure where his house was.
Well, I think it was right where the people's co-op is.
On that corner?
You look at the map, it was right before right before it starts going downhill.
Okay.
And where it starts going downhill, that's where the public housing is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking, I was reading something, I was doing some research at Anacostia Museum and some of the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading where it might have been that corner where the church owned, right?
Yeah.
The other end of Elvis that I don't live, that right at that corner where the church
Yeah.
owns that property.
That's a very interesting corner. And the Universal Holiness corner, the Universal Holiness Church was originally there, and then later they built that. When they built the apartment buildings, the developer gave money to the church to build that building that's there now. Now, you're right, that was it. And in fact, the church was not right on the corner. There was a house there, and Reverend Hodges, who was the minister of Universal Holiness, and was on my panel a few years ago, he lived in that house. Well, he eventually did. He married the daughter of the original minister.
Okay.
He died just recently.
I got one more question and then open up for anybody else got a question. In my research, I saw that there looks like there was at least 2 African Americans or at least 2 cemeteries up by Elvins Road, Stanton Road area, and then they
Yeah.
moved
I
them.
used to play in one of them.
Yeah, me too.
Anybody elaborate on that?
I didn't get what you said.
There was 2 cemeteries that was moved, or African American
Oh, right,
cemeteries
right,
up in
right.
Right
Elvins.
off
Yeah,
the
that was
hill.
down at the bottom of the hill. In fact, Mr. Howard, who lived at the very end of Elvins Road, was a minister. His family, his father, started that church, which was called Macedonia Baptist Church. It's right underneath the Parkway, the Steuben Parkway today. And yes, he was a minister, and a number of people were buried there, and also slightly up the hill.
Yeah, right
And it
there.
was your wife who put us onto that, because your mother used to say, don't.
Mrs. Parrish used to say, well, my mother too, don't play in it, 'cause it's
Yeah.
but we were talking about it earlier, and we think that they removed the gravestones. There were some little plaques sometimes we saw, because she would say, don't play in them because it's a hole now. They removed the grave stone.
But there's reports that they moved the graves.
Graves.
so-
They moved them too.
I don't know.
Well, they didn't move all of them.
The-
And some of them went to what they call Harmony, it's in Maryland, I believe.
Was it them?
And we have tried to, as a matter of fact, it's very interesting you should say that, because the same sort of thing is going on out on River Road right now.
Oh.
They're trying to rebuild, and they won't. It's very important, the people feel very strongly about graveyards. And they don't, and if you've got to build a super parkway on top, you gotta move it, right?
Yeah.
Well, we went over to the archives and did a lot of work trying to figure out just exactly what was going on. It was very, very shady, I'll be honest with you. And really, it should be exposed. And we had this guy, Slooby, or whatever his name is, Slooby, the church. He came
Yeah.
out and helped us and everything, and he said he poked around and he couldn't find anything. But I really believe it's up the hill, on the hill, there are still some graves.
Yeah.
I'm sure it
There's
is,
something-
because as a kid, I played on that hill and I saw the crosses, the wooden crosses and some remains of the coffins and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, was this the Morrison, Jacob Moore Cemetery? Or what was the
I
name?
know it's
I don't know
called-
the
it's
name
called-
of it.
I know it's
Macedonia
called-
Massacre.
We
There
had
was 2 of them. There was the Macedonian, and then there was a Morrison. Sounded like it was like up more closer to the hill.
Yeah, right on the hill.
Yeah, that was
They,
also, yeah.
Okay.
and
Then I
before
got
they
one
put
more
the
question
apartment
about a
buildings-
cemetery.
Yeah.
And that's the Jewish cemetery.
Oh,
That's
man.
over in Alabama, no?
I know. I mean, how did that get here? Seeing that the first synagogue was over, downtown.
You know, there were Jews around here. In fact, there were Jews in Berry Farm.
Okay.
There was one owned a store, and I don't remember the names right now, but yes, there were Jews. And there were some Chinese, I think there was one Chinese family, or at least Asian, I'm not sure.
There was a gentleman named Wolf who was a recorder of deeds in 1870s, 1880s. But I mean, my understanding, because I did some research on the Jewish cemeteries, is really, I guess, like 4 of them. The Washington Hebrew Cemetery is the one that fronts Alabama Avenue.
In 15th place.
Looking back on the old records, it looks like when they purchased, the first cemetery was on Hamilton Road. Hamilton Road became Alabama Avenue in 1869. The Washington Hebrew Cemetery bought the land because I guess it was cheaper this side of town. And then you had, there's when you walk back on like 15th place and then up over to, what is it? It's where, not Savannah Street, it's the street back there.
Jasper Street?
Well, the cemeteries, you have the one cemetery that's on this side was St. Elizabeth's, that's if you're driving down, was it 295,
That's
whatever,
the
by
one
the
we
Coast
saw.
Guard.
Right.
There's the one there where the story is, I guess, that he had both wounded Union and Confederate troops at St. Elizabeth's. Now, why you'd have Confederate troops, I'm not exactly sure if the U.S. government, because they're basically rebelling against the U.S. government. But you had, it's the story that's told is that you had Union and Confederate troops that were buried at the smallest cemetery that's on the hill. Then if you're going off of Stanton Road? It's where Super Parkway and Stanton Road, right? If you take Stanton Road, you're going up and you go behind.
Go Jasper and back.
Jasper,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Way in the
Go
back.
back there,
Yeah.
go behind the St. Elizabeth's East Campus
And
is a
that's-
cemetery that just goes
Yes.
forever.
And that's gated off. We tried to go in there.
And that's very old and historic and don't look like it's military. You know something about that cemetery?
Well, that cemetery actually had, that cemetery has two, why? Many of these topics I've written articles about, but the article's like 4 or 5 years old, so I forget all the intimate details. But at the hospital behind the St. Elizabeth's East Campus, there's a gentleman who in 1866 or 1867 received the Medal of Honor, I think, which is the highest essentially civilian award that you can get. It's not, his cemetery is not recognized with any sort of Medal of Honor decoration, but if you go on like Wikipedia and all these other sites, you can find his citation. It's something where after the Civil War, there was like an explosion on a Navy ship, he went in and saved a couple people. Then there's a gentleman who's involved with the Seminole War, who was an Indian scout. Now how he exactly arrived at St. Elizabeth's, I'm not exactly sure. But that cemetery is really, I mean, there must be, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 people buried there, maybe more than that.
That's the
It's a lot.
cemetery that St. Elizabeth used with all the experiments that went wrong, maybe.
So that's
And there are
very
a lot of people that-
historical.
Because it's blocked off. You can't, yeah.
I guess, I don't know, I was gonna say
Yeah,
Robinson, is it
somewhere,
Robinson
right?
Place or
Yeah.
Robinson?
I know it's back at Jasper and there's some other
Well,
place.
Robinson Place, the Jewish cemetery borders part of Robinson Place, okay? And then after you go deep towards St. Elizabeth, right, because it's no